Hello there, the purpose of this video is to show how to install a C++ compiler by using the MSYS2 installer. So go to the homepage for MSYS2, www.msys2.org. If you're running a 64-bit machine, you'll want the middle button here. So click on that and it will download the executable for the installer. While that's downloading, MSYS2 is not the simplest way. It's not the simplest tool that includes a compiler inside it, but it does have a number of things that do make subsequent additions simpler. For example, it's got a package manager, which makes it much easier to install other libraries subsequently that we might want to use. So although it's complicated and big, it nevertheless has that one advantage, which keeps things simple, which is our aim here. Okay, so that's downloaded now. Run the file and follow the instructions that are given on the MSYS installer 2 homepage. Next. Now my C drive is a little bit full, as you can tell, so I'm going to put this on the D drive, but you'll probably normally be installing it onto the C drive or wherever you normally put your folders. Keep it under its directory, just under the drive letter, and then it'll be easy to find. Next, we don't need to worry about that. Installing it now. This takes a little while. As you can see, it's extracting a large archive. But as I say, we're going to follow the instructions that are on the MSYS2 homepage, which are very easy to follow. They don't get us as far as installing the actual compiler, but almost there, and then we'll switch to something else. In fact, we can, while we're waiting for this to download, to install, we can look at the list of packages. So if you go to packages.msys2.org, you will find a list of all of the individual packages that can be installed through using the MSYS2 package manager. Now what we want is I'm going to search for it, is the GNU compiler collection of C. No, that's not the right one. What we want is this one. There we go, MinGW 64 GCC. That's the individual package that we want to download. Now you can also download that as part of other groups of packages. So for example, where is the let's have a look. The 64-bit toolchain also includes 17 packages, including the compiler that we want. It'll also have the Fortran compiler and various other things that you probably don't need. So the simplest way is probably just to install it directly. There we go, that one, to just directly install that. But I'll show you how to do that just as soon as our installation is complete. There we go. So the MSYS2 64-bit setup is now complete. Click next. And yes, we do want to run it immediately to complete the installation. That opens up a window, a so-called MSYS command line. I'll say a little bit more about that in a second, but that's the if we follow the instructions on here, those instructions to be entered into that MSYS command line. So let's just follow the instructions one by one. There we go. Pacman, by the way, is the package manager that we use to install packages under MSYS. So there we go. -SYU, capital SYU. That should update the package. There we go. Proceed with the installation. Yes. This also will take us a little while. There we go. And then you ought to get this warning at the end, at least I do every time, saying terminate MSYS2 without returning to shell and check for updates again. For example, close your terminal window instead of calling exit. So this is, you have to X out the window and then reopen it. Don't worry about the error message. It's okay. Now by now we should have found. So there's the directory in which we're installing MSYS 64. The executable for the MSYS2 command line is this thing here. Notice that we've also got a MinGW 64 executable. That also gives us a separate command line that we'll be using later to actually do the compiling. But for now, for all the administrative tasks, we're going to be using the MSYS2.exe. So that's the one we want to open up again. Let's bring it down here. And now we just continue with the instructions that are given in the in the web page. So again, go back to Pacman. Proceed with the installation Y. And again, wait a little while all of these additional items are installed. I might do a cut at this point. There we go, that's now finished. So we've completed our installation of MSYS2. What we don't yet have is the compiler that we're after. So now let's have a quick look at back one more time to our list of packages, also on the MSYS2 website. That's the one we want, assuming we don't want things like if that's what we want the let me see. Right, so we don't need to. We can download them individually. So if we want to just download MinGW64 x86 64 GCC, that will give us our C++ compiler. So that's the actual binary file that we want to download. So we're going to copy that and go back. We'll run Pacman one more time. Again, that the switch with uppercase S, meaning to install the download and install a package, and it's in fact shift insert on this environment to paste from the clipboard. There we go. That's the package we want to install. Now, one nice thing about using a package manager is that if that if that particular package has any dependencies, that's to say, if it requires other things to be installed in order to work, the package manager will handle that intelligently for us. So let's have a look and see how that works. Okay, so there we go. Those are all the dependencies that are going to need to be installed in order for us to be able to have a working C++ compiler. And proceed with the installation Y. There we go. And again, this takes a little while. Just patiently wait for it to complete. Okay, it's done. So we can now close the MSYS command line. Notice that the command prompt has the word that is MSYS there. let's have a look at the other one now. Let's go back here. So that's the one we were running just now. That's the MSYS command line. From now on, we're going to be using that one to do any actual compiling. But first of all, let's make sure that the file is where we think it is. So remember that we're on my D drive in this case, although you might be installing it on the C drive on yours. So we're in the MSYS64 directory, which is the directory to which we've installed MSYS. I'm expecting to find the compiler installed under MinGW64 in here, and it will be under bin. There we go, there it is, g++.exe. That's the executable that will run the C++ compiler. Now, if we go back to make sure that that's installed properly, we can run the MinGW command line. There we go. Notice that it's got a different prompt up there, MinGW64. Now, from here, to make sure that G++ is indeed installed properly, if we just send it the version switch, there we go, success. It's found the compiler, and it's giving us version information about it. So why don't we try this out and actually try and do our usual Hello World compilation? Notice that MSYS creates for us a home folder, and the account on Windows 10 that I'm using at the moment is cool code. So your account username should be appearing here. So let's go into that and create a new folder or CPP for our C++ source files. And we will go ahead and write the usual hello world code and see if that will compile for us. There we go, save that. Now if we go back one more time and open up the MinGW command line, we should be able to compile it from here. Now notice first of all that the MinGW command line always opens in that home folder that's been created for us. So there we go, there's the ls gives us the listing of the directories that are inside the home folder. CPP is the one we just created. We can cd into CPP. We go now inside CPP, and we can see the file, the hello world file that we just created, and we can go ahead and compile it with G++. It should be that simple. And no error message, so presumably it worked. We can then run it. Now we run it exactly the same you would on Linux. If you just type, well, first of all, let's just do ls for the list to list what's in there. There we go, a.exe. That's the executable that's been created from our hello world code. Now, if we would on a Windows command prompt, we'd just be able to type A, and that would run it for us. But that doesn't work on in this particular MSYS environment, nor does a.exe. We've got to use the Linux method, which would be to /, meaning referring to the current directory, and then a.exe. And sure enough, that works absolutely fine. So our compiler is working. We've successfully installed a C++ compiler using MSYS2. Right, we can close that. I want to say one final thing. When you've decided you don't want to use this anymore, don't just delete the directory. In order to uninstall it, you may be able to go via the Windows what's the word I'm groping for, the settings link, and then delete the app that way. Alternatively, you can click on maintenance-tool.exe, and that will also give you several options, including the option to delete the entire contents of the folder. Do make sure you do that, because there's a registry entry associated with MSYS2 that won't be removed unless you use one of those two methods to get rid of it. If you just delete the folder, if you just delete MSYS64, you'll be left with that stray registry entry. One other thing, you might want to use assuming you want to use your C++ compiler from outside this home folder or from outside the MSYS64 set of directories, you would then need to add it to your path variable. Now to do that, you can go to settings, search for environment. Oops. There we go. Edit the system environment variables. Need a password quickly. We bring this down. I just realized that was off my screen for a second. This is where you search for the environment variables. Oops. There we go. Edit the system environment variables. Type in a password. No, not that one. This is the one. There we go. On the system properties dialog box, click on environment variables. System variables path. There we go. Double click on that, and that will bring up all of the entries in your path variable. So these are all the paths to locations where there are executables that are needed. So don't delete or edit any of those, but you want to add one more and add it at the bottom so that all these are searched first before it gets to the one that we're doing now. So if you maybe click down here, let's have a look, browse. It's on the D drive, MSYS2, where did I say it was? MinGW64, the bin directory, that's the one we want. There we go, so it's added at the bottom. That means that from anywhere else on the system, if we want to compile, if we want to use G++ to compile C++ source code, it will be able to use this particular path here to find the compiler. Okay. So let's have one last thing we'll do is to see if that will actually work. So let's go to some other location. I suppose I wanted to create a folder just to hold source code. There we go. So I create a folder code. I could create in there yet another one of these hello world C++ files. Should just copy the other one really, but hello for now. There we go, we save that, close that. Now if we open up a regular Windows command prompt, there we go, there's one there. And now first of all I need to move to the right drive. I'm on D, right? There we go. So I'm back to using Windows commands dir to get a listing of the contents of the directory. There we go, that's our code there, that's the one we just created. We can cd into that. Oops, dir not ls. There we go, there's the newly created hello world C++ file. Let's compile it with G++, see if it works. Well, first let's see if we can get that version information. Yes, we get the version, so G++ is being recognized from this location outside the installation directory for MSYS2. No error messages, so it probably worked. There's the executable that's been created from that. Now, because we're on Windows, we should just be able to type, we're on a regular Windows environment, not an MSYS2 Linux-like environment, we should just be able to type A to run that. And there we go, it works.